Well, thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to see a few familiar faces on this call. My name is Kelly Broad, and I'm really delighted to be here to represent Cross-Curricular Orienteering this evening. So just to give some background information, I'm the curriculum lead for Cross-Curricular Orienteering, have been in that role for about 4 years. I'm a qualified teacher. I hold a level 2 certificate in coaching, and I'm a member of the Thames Valley Orienteering Club. To give a bit of information and just reintroduce Cross-Curricular Orienteering and who we are. Oops, sorry, there's a bit of a lag on the screen there, bear with me. There we go, that's a bit better. So we provide the resources, training and support to teachers to confidently deliver OAA, specifically orienteering, as well as across the wider curriculum, with the focus of being able to do that within their school grounds so that they can positively impact outcomes through outdoor learning and movement. So in a practical sense, this might look like a bit similar to some of the other partners, mapping of school sites, installation of courses, providing a range of different sets of markers that can be used across different subjects and also allow for use in different locations across the school grounds. Staff training, both in person and online. And we have well over 1,200 lessons on our portal for schools to use, and that's designed by qualified teachers so that it meets the national curriculum, so it is useful for teachers to use. And we also host experience days where our qualified teachers run the sessions with the pupils, and also the school staff get an opportunity to team teach alongside us as well. So that's a quick introduction. So just to talk about the impact and how things looked a little bit last year. So I've just got a map here with a few pins on there showing you some of our new schools, some of the locations where we did staff training and experience days. I know Kay's been referencing about how, we've got a lovely nationwide reach as the partners. This is great for so many clubs across the whole country. So this hopefully demonstrates the fact that that as well. So just to break that back down a little bit, we've got some green pins here which show you all the locations of the new schools that we've mapped. So hopefully this is the beginning of some lovely long-term partnerships with these schools, adding on to the existing schools that we have already set up in previous years. Then we've got some purple pins just here, which are showing you where we delivered some of our in-person staff training. I think Josh referred to his resources as being a bit like a vehicle, and we sort of use that analogy as well, in that we provide the infrastructure. It's a bit like a vehicle, like a car, but of course all cars still need a driver. So the teachers are the people who are the drivers. We're delivering that training where it matters most so that they can have the biggest impact. And to give a really rough estimation, we had about 4,800 new school staff that received training and resources in the last year. And we've got some yellow pins here, and this just demonstrates where we have delivered experience days. Now, some of the locations, or quite a few of the locations here, show schools that booked multiple different days, but they're just showing the areas that we reached across the country. And that was a roughly 40,000 pupils that received orienteering experience day delivered by our team. So as Kay was looking at the total figures at the beginning, it's quite an astounding number of pupils that we can reach. So it's wonderful to look at it and reflect on it at the end of the year. So as well as our new schools and the training experience days, etc., in the last year, we've also expanded our library of lessons on our lesson portal. In 2025, we found that our user logins had increased by about 32.5%. So a bit more engagement on the portal. There's more things for people to use, which is wonderful. And I am very quickly going to pass over. I didn't mention at the beginning, so I've got 2 glamorous assistants that are joining me this evening, which I'm very pleased to say. We thought, what better way to talk about our impact and the ways in which we've been working with our schools than to have some school contacts on the call. And I'm just going to pass over to Jill. Now, Jill, I think I might have seen Andrew on the call. Andrew,
yes,
I met at a conference.
Andrew.
Yeah, so Andrew and DFOC, they set up your school with a map first of all, didn't they? And then you
Absolutely.
got in contact with us to make use of the resources. So Jill, I'll pass over to you if that's okay.
Okay. As Kelly has said already, I teach at Sutton at Home Primary. I'm the Year 6 teacher and the PE lead. Many years ago, we started with Dartford helping us out, and because I knew it was one of those things that we had to fulfill in the PE curriculum, and to be honest, I wouldn't have known what it was about. Coming from South Africa, we just didn't have this kind of activity, so I had to look elsewhere. Unfortunately, Andrew and Dartford stepped in and helped us out there. I think every year we try to incorporate the OAA into PE, but unfortunately, if you don't really know what you're doing and teachers don't know what they're doing, it ends up with maybe one year group doing it and nobody else getting involved because they don't know what to do. So we did try in our own little way to make it happen. And then Dartford came along and mapped our school for us. And then from there, it's gone on to cross-curricular. And I think what, for me, as a PE lead, is that I know that OAA is being done now and is being done well because we've had the training and the kids understand it. And every year group does it now, whereas it would have maybe been year 5, 6. So they all have an orienteering session throughout the year. And I think it is, as somebody else was saying, I can't remember the man's name, the one who spoke before us, but it's this thing of not just football, not just netball. It's opening it up to so many other children because it's active, but not everybody wants to be kicking a football or throwing a netball. So I think it just opens up for everybody to be active. And also we're fortunate in that Dartford run competitions locally and we take part in those, and you can then get the children who wouldn't normally represent your school, which they all want to do, and give them the opportunity to do that because they know they're not going to play football because they're not footballers or they're not netballers or so, but to represent their school and then to stand up in collective worship, and that is something that they will never forget. And I know there's one little boy who went to the orienteering this year and now he's going to the Sunday park runs. And so that's a life lesson for him and keeping himself active. I think for me as well as the PE lead and for the staff, it's the confidence to be able to deliver it now. And with the training we've had, it's just, yeah, it was brilliant. So we know what we've got to do and we can do it properly. And the kids understand it now, whereas before it was very much run around the field, go look there, come back. And, so I think it's become far more professional. The resources and that you were speaking about, they are brilliant. The other day we wanted to be out orienteering when we had an open day, and the year 6s were doing, I can't remember the exact one, but I looked on the portal and there was specifically whatever topic we were doing, so we could be doing the orienteering and they were doing the maths, reinforcing that. So that's also outstanding. For me, the highlights have been, number one, seeing those children who aren't active, being active. And last year we had the timing experience day, which was, the kids absolutely loved it. And we had one little boy in reception who was a runner, as in, would run out the classroom and disappear and just wouldn't engage in anything because probably on the spectrum, and they were worried about how he would cope, and he absolutely loved it. And for a child like that, for a PE lesson, probably wouldn't be involved because he can't focus, but to suddenly see him absolutely loving it. And for me, the other benefit of orienteering is having your year 6 as leaders or your year 5 as leaders so they can buddy up with the younger ones. You can see in some of the photographs, I think bottom right, that's one of our year 6 boys with the little ones helping them. So you're developing leadership there as well. So yeah, it's just been an absolute positive, and we appreciate Dartford for setting us on the road and getting us going. So thank you, Andrew. And then for Cross-Curricular for keeping us involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe. Yeah, it's really lovely to hear. I could have explained some of those things. It's nice to hear directly from you about that connection originally with your club and then how we've come in as well. So it's great to see that partnership and see how it's getting your pupils involved and getting some lifelong participation there. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe.
Pleasure.
I'm not through with my glamorous assistants just yet. I do have the lovely Duncan from St Mary's. Before we hear from Duncan, I just do have just a few very, very short clips from some of the lovely year 6 pupils. Unfortunately, the audio is not the best because it was recorded during a lunch break, so there's lots of children playing in the background and it was a bit windy, but I've just got the words written here, so perhaps you could read along and just see what some of the things that the pupils are saying about their participation in the orienteering at school. Oh, apologies, one moment.
Orienteering has made me feel like a lot more independent independent with like doing things on your own, but then it also is nice doing it.
So a bit of discussion there about being independent, working with a partner. The next one we got here.
I like doing it in most subjects. I like doing it in SPAG the most though, because I find it more interesting.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the school speak, SPAG is spelling, punctuation and grammar. And I know that at St Mary's they have a weekly timetable slot where they do that. So that's I think why it's mentioned a couple of times here.
Orienteering helps me in maths by you can do like multiplication whilst doing orienteering.
And then lastly,
it makes you learn a lot more in SPAG because it's more fun. That you're not just sat down at the desk.
and I like that one particularly, talking about not just being sat down at a desk, you're getting pupils outside for their learning. So I'll just hand over, if that's okay, to you, Duncan. I've seen you're on the call somewhere. If you wouldn't mind just commenting a little bit further on what your lovely pupils have just said in those short clips.
Absolutely, and sort of build on what Jill was saying, it's so nice to see so many different pupils active in this, and you know, we've got all our pressures of the curriculum that you've got to get in, but having cross-curricular giving us so many different ways to keep our children active in all of the subjects, and SPAG's a key one there because it can be a little bit dry doing the grammar side of things, and seeing them enjoy it so much. And then that independence that they were talking about, we're very blessed with our grounds, that there's a lot of space for them to go around, and through something I'll talk about in a moment, we've got to a point where the pupils can be trusted to go off on quite a wide expanse. They know what they're doing, they're going to do the activities, and they come back, and that independence, they feel great, they get a great sense of satisfaction from that, and that stems all the way through school. And that's really come from, you know, we've always wanted to do orienteering, we've done it for a while at school, but it wasn't great. Like Jill was saying, it's usually just 1 year group with somebody who's interested. We got in touch with Cross-Curricular, and with the mapping that was set up, that was absolutely brilliant. That was a perfect first step. And then we were very keen to make sure our curriculum was progressive, specifically the orienteering curriculum all the way through school, to make sure that when they got to year 5 and 6, the skills that they had there were sort of very robust and strong and suitable for outdoor activities. So that means that by the time they get to me, I know that they could do all aspects of the orienteering, and when we go to different sites on our trips, we can still use those orienteering skills wherever we are. Just moving on my side there. What's also been incredibly useful is, again, as Jill was saying, you got your teachers and they've been trained, but we have so many different aspects that we get pulled in each direction. Having regular contact with Cross-Curricular just helps refresh all of our staff, and the resources and videos that we've got for each different aspect of orienteering and then the cross-curricular lessons has been really, really helpful. I think that's one of the biggest things that's allowed our school to carry on doing orienteering weekly and throughout the entire school. We're not just sort of sitting back on that though. Our next steps really, but we know we're doing some enjoyable things at school with the orienteering and the cross-curricular learning, the active learning. But now we know it's about trying to link up with some of our local clubs, I believe might even be on here. And it's been brilliant to sort of talk about these ideas with cross-curricular, and we've been starting to signpost the pupils, but I suppose that's our next step really, is looking at how to get more engaged with our local clubs. And I find it one of the really sort of reassuring aspects is that we've got cross-curricular there to help us make that next step, which is where we sort of want to take ourselves. So that's it in a nutshell, really. It's just great to have the support of professionals like yourselves to make sure we're going in the right sort of direction.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Yeah, that's great. It's just, as you've just said, it's, you know, we're getting these pupils exposed to the sport, getting them involved, and as I'm about to go into in just a moment, talking about that next step and easing them into outside of the sort of gates and their participation out there as well. So just got a couple of final quotes on here, just a few more examples, or two more examples I wanted to show you from a couple of schools that are not live on the call, but we've got a quote from John Lindsay here at Wilson CE School. We've got some screenshots from their social media just showing how they're doing it quite regularly. They said, "We love cross-curricular orienteering. Pupils are always excited to use the course, and staff love how versatile it is." I know Luke was just saying about how as soon as the pupils do the orienteering, they love it, and we see that, of course, as well. The links to other subjects such as maths help to enrich the wider curriculum. We've noticed a real improvement in the children's use of maps, and the fact that the whole site's been mapped has enabled us to use and adapt it for all sorts of lessons. And this picture just in the bottom right here, the school actually came up with that lesson, I think it's to do with the Psalms in RE. So that was wonderful to see it being adapted and used in all sorts of different ways. And then finally, our last quote here from Molly from Lilleshall Primary School. We've got some photos on here as well. And this photo just at the bottom, we can actually see our very own Catherine from our team wearing a lovely Santa's hat for one of the themed days. But Molly said it's made a real difference at Lilleshall Primary School. What used to be a limited offer before CCO is now a well-used resource from Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, the permanent course embedded across the curriculum, enriching learning in a truly active way. We've enjoyed theme days, seen staff and pupil enthusiasm grow. It's become a popular and valued part of our school life, which is wonderful to hear. Which leads me very nicely on. Oh, one more slide I forgot about. Sorry, some other achievements from last year. I shouldn't forget about this one because we're very, very pleased about this particular top one. Last year we received the resource accreditation by FPE. That was judged by an independent panel, so obviously very, very proud of that. We delivered at conferences and to delegates all over the country. We also worked with the University of Cumbria, raising the profile of orienteering for the next generation of teachers, which hopefully is having this trickle-down effect that we're talking about to get pupils and get people into the sport. And we were a finalist at the Teach Primary Awards. So all of this really is encompassing to looking ahead, looking at how we're making these connections that we've been talking about the whole way through this call. So really looking ahead, we're looking to sustain and extend the impact we already have. Just got some screenshots from our portal here, which is one way in which we try to direct our schools to local clubs. So clear signposting there. We also offer that in our follow-up emails after training and experience stays. And as I just mentioned, we're looking now to really try to encourage schools to get pupils and families and maybe teachers as well involved in orienteering outside of the school gates. And as both of the other partners have also explained, we very much welcome people to get involved. If there's any collaboration you'd like to do for any events or any CPD, then we do welcome you to get in touch. And I've got one final little clip from lovely Freddie, which I thought rounded up the presentation very nicely.
Would you like to join an orienteering club outside of school, do you think?
It would be quite fun actually, because it kind of links with the stuff I like, and it would be good to do it with other people that I don't really know.
I thought it was a very sweet little quote from him. I think it'd be quite fun actually. So fingers crossed. Who knows? By the next time we meet, Freddie will be well into his local club and getting involved in the orienteering.
Would you like to join an orienteering?
Apologies. That concludes all about our impact and looking ahead. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Jill and Duncan for joining on the call. I appreciate your time.